Hey guys, welcome to the Whole Lot of Jesus podcast. I'm your host, Carley Rains, and I'm super excited to hear this testimony and to really talk about this topic. I don't feel like this is a topic that has been much discussed that I've at least heard or seen, and I'm super excited to dive into it. And really, the topic that we're going to discuss today is what it's like to be a spouse of an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons. I want to give y'all a realistic view of this because, and I'm going to say it by your nickname, but Kiki, you understand this too because your husband is an entrepreneur. And, sometimes when we think about entrepreneurship and owning your own business, it always comes with like sunshine and rainbows and all of this great glamorous galore. I will say it does have a lot of pros, but there are a lot of cons and challenges and obstacles that you have to overcome. And I think as a spouse, it's really important that if you're a spouse of a business owner, or maybe your girlfriend, boyfriend, or fiance, or husband or wife is wanting to step into that environment, really understanding the role that you're going to play as the spouse, because this is something that I've had to really grow into. Briston owned his business before we got married. And so I kind of knew going into our marriage that I was going to take on a role as a spouse, of an entrepreneur, but I had no idea like what that entailed, what it was going to look like. And I think especially with social media and just the reviews and the feedback, good and bad, I think you really have to set yourself up for success. And I want to educate y'all, especially with Kiki's testimony of like what it's like, what our journey has been, personally, what we've learned, what we failed at, what we did well, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the in
Mhm.
between. And so I'm excited to get into this topic. How do you feel about it?
I think honestly, it is funny that term entrepreneur because sometimes it doesn't feel like that. You can just get going in the grind of life. And then I think it's important to stop and recognize and kind of celebrate the fact that, man, we own our own business. We have employees or we have, like you were saying, you guys put on big races. It's an accomplishment, and so it's something that definitely you don't want to just always get stuck in the mindset of all the things that have to get done, but you take the time to stop and celebrate all the things that you have done and all the things
Good.
that God is doing through you. Because really, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a Christian podcast. I'm a Christian, so I'm going to talk about Jesus, but it is all only because of the Lord. Everything He brings to us, the success, the lessons from the failures. I mean, that is all filtered through by the Lord. And so I think it's important to recognize and not just get stuck up in the grind. I honestly love it. I know some people it can be intimidating to them and it's almost the mindset of, I can never do that. I love it. I don't know why. Maybe it's because my dad, he was in real estate, but for a while he owned his own real estate business. So that mindset of owning your own business wasn't unusual to me. Um, I mean, my parents encouraged us all to kind of be entrepreneurs when we were in high school. We didn't always go and just find a job, do like, the after school hours. There were a lot of times I taught guitar, my sister taught piano, she still teaches piano. We would do odd jobs here and there. And so my parents always encouraged that entrepreneurship talent, I guess, in us at a young age. But yeah, it's cool to see. I love being a part of it. And I think as a wife, stepping into it, while it might not be your initial dream or goal you had in life, there is a spot and a place to encourage and to come alongside your husband in it because you are their helpmeet. And without your support, it matters. They feel that, they notice that. And so
Yes.
even if it seems small to you of what you do, it still matters to them. And so that's something I've seen too of stepping into a role of running a business with my husband. Hey, everything I do, even if it's just words of encouragement that day, it still matters and it's still important to Jonathan as we're in this season of running businesses.
Yeah, that's so good. So, one of the pillars of our podcast and really YouTube channel and things like that is servanthood.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, and I want you to speak on this too. You as a spouse, whether it's your husband or wife, but they're really a lot of times the face of
Mm-hmm.
the business. Like for instance, Briston's the founder of Texas Outlaw. He actually founded it before I stepped into the picture. And so
Mm-hmm.
whenever we got married and we took on this role of, or I took on this role of being the wife of him, and then also partnering and owning the business.
Yeah.
I really realized how much I had to not only serve my husband when it came to family life, but also serving my husband when it came to him being my boss.
Mhm.
And that is something that I will say, and I kind of want to get into, is
Yeah.
the difference between like you are equal whenever I've had to learn this, guys, because I failed at this. Because you get married, and this is
Yeah.
really why I wanted to talk about this, is just to like educate and just really help people who are in the same shoes do this
Mhm.
successfully.
Mhm.
Whenever you're going into marriage, especially when we come from the biblical worldview, you're going into marriage, so you're like, okay, we're equal, we're equal and all that stuff. When you take on the business side, I learned very quickly, it's not that we're not equal because we are equal as human beings, but whenever it comes to positions and roles and responsibilities, I really did not understand how to transition my mind from, okay, at home, we make decisions together. Every decision we make is together. But whenever it comes to the business, he is my boss. Like he is the CEO and he is the head honcho. And it's not that he doesn't ask me questions because Briston always will ask questions of like, hey, what do you think about this? Should I make this decision? Things like that. But at the end of the day, he makes the decision. And I really was really bad at when I first started working for him, I was really bad at he would ask me to do something, and if I thought of a more efficient way or a different way to do it, I would like rebuttal and say, da 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 da, instead of submitting and honoring him as my boss. And, one day he confronted me about it and he was like, Carley, and he even got this from Dave Ramsey, which they work with family. And Dave Ramsey said, at home, because he works with his daughter and he works with his other kids, but him and his daughter are very seen in public. And Dave Ramsey said, when we're at home, I talk to Rachel like she's my daughter, and she calls me dad, and I call her, But he said, when we're at work, she calls me Dave, because I'm technically her boss and we're coworkers. And just that mindset shift of transitioning from, okay, we're husband and wife and we're always husband and wife, but there is a different in terms of hierarchy, if that makes sense, and honoring that, he technically is my boss and I'm working for him. And I had to really learn that, and I had to really submit my mouth and and I could come to him later and say, hey, what do you think about this? And things like that. But just if I had a normal boss who was like 40 years old, I would have never, if they asked me to do something, I would have never have been like, oh, wait, let's do it this way. Or, I would have been like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it, the way that you ask or whatever. So I don't know if you have any thoughts, talking about just the transition of like husband and wife and then coworkers and how that relationship kind of changes from home life to work life.
No, definitely. That's a good point to point out because there is a fine line. You are still always the wife, and so that is a different role. Your opinions do matter, but yet, as you said, there's a time and place for it. And it wasn't until about a year and a half ago, a year ago, that I stepped in to Jonathan's jobs with him, first with his alarm company and doing all the admin work for him, the billing work, and then now with the gym, I help him train. I do all the admin. I do all of the kind of the paperwork behind the scenes. And so that was his main concern. He grew up with parents who owned their own business and parents that worked together. And so he was nervous stepping into it. Not that he had a negative experience with that, but he didn't want his marriage to always be work. And that was his big concern. And that's what he mentioned of saying, hey, I want you. I recognize you have skills and talents in this, but I don't want every time we talk or when I address you, you feel I'm just always talking to an employee and there's tension there built up because first and foremost, you're my wife. And so there's kind of this understanding that we came to of going, hey, when it's work hours, I'm your employee. I'm always your wife, and I know that, but I'm your employee. So when you text me asking to do something, when we're working at the gym, whatever it might be, I am in work mode in a sense. When I'm not at work, when it's past 5 o'clock for the alarm business, it's husband and wife. And we even try to protect that a little bit. We might recap some of the day, but we really try to avoid work talk as well because it can just become all consuming when you're business owners. And that was something even that Jonathan said he's really trying to do and grow in and then lead the family in of Sabbathing. And when we take that day of rest, we take that day of rest. There's no work talk. There's no even dreaming about, where the gym could go, the mission of the gym, where we want to see it expand to. It really is, hey, keep that Monday through Saturday. Sunday's our day off. And so there is that place. As you said, I think there's a time and place to give ideas and feedback because you're two individual people and you're going to think differently. Even being married, you're going to have different ideas and opinions that can complement each other and help the business grow. But as you mentioned, there's a time and place for it. You don't always want to push back when they've asked you to do something because maybe in that moment they just need you to do it and that's what they need. And then later on, you can circle back around and go, hey, I was thinking that next time, as you said, a more efficient way we could do this was this approach versus this approach. And normally, I don't think Bristen's this way. John is not this way. John is not prideful, so he doesn't
Yeah.
care if I give feedback on how he's doing at his job. But you also want to have good timing on when you do that. And so that's where I've noticed of going, hey, there's moments where I've been given a task, and what would be more helpful than my opinion is just to complete the task. And then
Yeah.
there's other times where we're talking about how we can change things or how we can be more efficient or what will help us in whatever business we're talking about. Um, I can give my opinion and I can talk about, hey, I think we should do this, this, and this. And he's willing and wanting to hear that. It has to be, it's a timing thing for sure. And being the wife is hard too, because I think you're this way, I'm this way. I mean, we've worked jobs a long time. Like we're very capable of working and being working women. And so we have ideas that matter, but it's not always the right timing to give them. And
Yeah.
so there is time and place and knowing how to submit, but also support lead. I think the wife is a huge leader, but in the form of a supportive leader. They
Yeah.
can, you can step up to the plate when your husband isn't there and you're capable of that. But then you can also support and remember that your husband is the leader, both first in the home, but also in the business, and support that well, where you complement each other and you don't conflict with each other.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, I kind of want to transition now to I want to ask if you struggle with this because personally I did. So, like I said, Brisden started his business. We do, if you don't know, it's called Texas Outlaw Running, and name your businesses too, Kiki, but Texas Outlaw Running, and we put on events, running. We're starting to get into biking. We're starting to get into road racing all across Texas, and we're starting to branch out into Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. We're trying to like spread out, but Texas is the basis of where we're going. And he started that again before we got together. And the world that we live in today, going back to servanthood, you have your goals and as a person, you have goals and things that you want to accomplish. And growing up, I was always very independent, and I will say our society applauds and celebrates and promotes independence. It promotes, and you should have goals and you should have things that God's called you to do. But going back to Christianity and our worldview, I don't think we can neglect the family unit, especially when it comes to a husband and wife duo, because I think that that is so important in society. And if you look back in biblical times and in like historical times, I'm sure there were a lot of things that families did together that if you will, it was like a business. I mean, you think about farming or you think about things that the family unit did together. And so this isn't like a new concept of like husband and wife working together. This is a thing that I think has been around historically for a very long time. But because of where our society's going, it's like, oh, you're a woman, like your career goals, like do what you want, your own thing. And not that those are bad necessarily. I think there's a boundary line that we shouldn't cross. And whenever I stepped in under his business, and actually recently the Lord, so I do part-time right now. And when we moved to Texas, I felt like the Lord was like, quit your job because I had a different job. and Briston did his business and I had a different job. And then we moved to Texas and I felt like the Lord was like, work part-time for Briston's business. We got pregnant, all that stuff. I'm now a mom and I still do part-time, but starting in June, I will go full-time. And I remember the other day, it's been these past couple of months, that the Lord asked me to go full time. I want you to go all in. Go all in, go all in, go all in. And I really struggled with that, Kiki. I struggled because I was like, well, what about the goals that I have? Like, I was like, I know you want me to go all in for Texas Outlaw, but I have writing goals and there's fiction books that I want to write. And how am I supposed to go all in full time for my husband's business and be a mom and have more kids and write and be social and volunteer and do all of these things that, life requires you to do and that we should do and get them all done and not be overwhelmed and not feel like I'm a chicken with my head chopped off running around, like how am I supposed to do it all? And you talked about timing and something that the Lord like really addressed with me, and I'm going to bring the scripture up, was Ecclesiastes 3. And man, maybe we should preach about this more in the church, but there's a time for everything under the sun. Like there's seasons to life. And something that I don't feel like, maybe we're educated about that we should be educated about is just like Ecclesiastes 3 says, there's a time for this and then there's a time for this. And the seasons change, just like, spring, summer, fall, winter. And so the season that you might be in, there might be a season where God is like, hey, I want you to go all in for your spouse's business. They need your help. That was something that the Lord very adamantly said was, he needs your help. Like you need to go all in for this. And I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that he needs my help. And that's the thing, Kiki. I'm sure you've experienced this too. You want to help. It's like I want to help and I want to go all in, but then there's also other things that you want to do. So it's like, how do I balance this? And just the Ecclesiastes 3 of like there verse 1 says, for everything there is a season, a time for every activity. This is the NLT version. I kind of like that. Every activity under heaven. And so knowing that, okay, in June I'm going all in. And that right now where we're going, that's what he needs. That's what my husband needs. And Jesus says like the servant is the greatest. Not saying it's about being great, but I think sometimes in life, again, Briston's the face of Texas Outlaw. When people think of Texas Outlaw, they think of Briston. They don't think of Carley because Carley didn't start it. Briston started it. And it's taking that behind the scenes, being okay with being behind the scenes, and maybe people don't see the things that you do, and really taking that servant role of, do you get what I'm saying? Like that servant role of being okay with going all in and maybe putting your goals to the side for a season. Like if that's what the Lord is asking you to do. Like right now, I need you to serve your husband. I need you to, in that season, do that. And I think in the long term, it's going to, because this is something that I think you can really relate to, is your business, and this is something that I'm learning, like our business is an opportunity to preach the gospel and to use it for kingdom purposes. Because used to, like I said, with my writing, I wanted to help people grow in the Lord and like spread the gospel and, be what Christians are supposed to be. And for some reason, when we first got married, I detached that from my husband's business. It's like I was like, this is my husband's business, and then I'm doing this writing. And the Lord's like, because a lot of people in our community, in our running community, are not saved. Their beliefs are very opposite of what we believe. And the other day, I felt like the Lord was like, don't they need Jesus too? Like, isn't this an opportunity for you to be a light and be the salt of the world and be what I've called you to be? And, why are you looking at this opportunity? Sorry. Why are you looking at this opportunity as a negative thing when I can actually use it to launch your writing? And so I've been talking a lot and there's a lot more that I want to say, but I want to let you talk first. So like, just whatever you want to say in regards to that. I'm going to shut up now.
Oh, I hear everything you're saying, and I'm smiling. I'm nodding my head because I agree. I understand what you're saying. I went through a season after having Addison. I got to be a stay-at-home mom, and I say I got to because not all women get to do that. They pay, they have to put their kids in daycare, and they go back to work. And mostly it's after 6 to 8 weeks. And so I had the opportunity because of Jonathan's flexibility and the Lord blessing his business where he was at. I got to stay at home. But there was a sense of trying to figure it out, feeling a little lost. I recognized my calling as a mom. I recognized my calling as a wife, but yet we live, as you mentioned, we live in a culture where it's boss babe, you do you. If you have dreams, accomplish them. Don't let a man hold you back. And that is all applauded. And as you said, I think there's truth in that. And that's how the devil works with lies. He's going to sell a lie by sticking a little truth in it so that we can all feel justified in our pursuit of whatever we're pursuing.
That's
And
good.
that's this whole pursuit of girl boss, whatever you want to call it. There is truth in that. And we can have a purpose and we can walk out that purpose. But I think the whole where I was missing it was recognizing that there's purpose in every season. And if I'm not walking out that calling I felt to be, I wanted to be an eating disorder counselor. I saw that being an opportunity through being a dietitian. And then that kind of, I didn't like the diet culture, learning the nutrition world. So I switched a little bit. I had an interest in speech pathology and all of these things I felt very equipped to do. And it was one of those things where if I did this, I feel very confident that I would be good at it because of my personality and the skills and talents God's given me. And so I felt this moment of going, if I never get to do these things, did I waste my life? You know, I have all these gifts, I have all these dreams, and I'm not pursuing them. I'm just a mom. And I hate that saying because we say it, I'm just a mom or I'm just a whatever. Do you just stay at home? And that is such a big calling. Like that is such a job in itself, this just a stay at home mom, that people don't even recognize that is a full time job. And I'm not saying that because I do it. I'm saying that because I've learned that it's a full time job. And moms who do that, they're superheroes. They're incredible. They really hold the family together. And people don't recognize what a purpose that is. And so, as you said, for every season, you can find purpose in that season. And as you step into the season of kind of what feels like putting your dreams on hold and pursuing your husband's and supporting him, that is a big opportunity there too, because you don't know the ways God's going to grow you and the things He's going to teach you that will equip you even more in your own dreams and pursuits as you step into helping Briston with his and his company. And I think another thing that we can slip into feeling, as you mentioned, having Texas Outlaw Running being a ministry, I think there's a mindset. I'm just going to say, I say I think a lot, but I'm just going to say there's a mindset that if you make money with a job, then it's not a ministry. And that's a lie too, because there
Yeah.
is ministry in anything you do, in anything you do. And we've fallen into that same trap of stepping down from serving at church several times a month, serving at youth every week. We've stepped away from some of those opportunities where we were serving before as we've opened the second business. And you can feel guilty because you think, I'm not serving God anymore. I'm not actively serving in my church. But what we have to remind ourselves is every day there are people who don't know Jesus who come into the gym and
Yeah.
they're there to work out and they're there to hit some bags and take out some frustration. And we honestly, we just encourage, like our saying as trainers is we're here to motivate, encourage, and inspire you. And people hear those things and they think, oh, that's good. I want to be motivated, encouraged, and inspired. But they don't understand that that flows from a love of Jesus. And so
Yeah.
there's people that have come and they said, hey, I just feel, a lady told me the other day, she said, I feel so accepted here. And she does not live a lifestyle that honors God or pursues God at all. And she said, I feel so loved and accepted here where I feel comfortable in coming. And she said, I didn't think I would, but you guys just love me and treat me well. And that means a lot to me. And that was just another opportunity where I don't, I don't talk about Jesus every single day I'm at the gym, but he's very evident in every single day at the gym that that's a ministry. And so I would encourage you and anyone listening to this as they step into this role. I did struggle with that. And I did struggle with feeling, but God, you've given me all these talents. And I don't understand why. You've given me this passion to do this thing, and I'm doing this thing over there. And I feel as if I'm not being obedient to the gifts and the desires you've given me. And Jonathan has kind of said that too, where he said, I feel bad because this is my dream. And similar, like he had MFM, Made for More, as a dream way back in high school. And so this is something that's been a long time in coming. But that's the cool opportunity because I said, when we got married, your dreams became my dreams became your dreams. And right now we're in a season of pursuing your dream and making it happen and doing that together. It's now become our dream. Like I can back the mission of Made for More with all my heart, and I can pour my all my time into it and love it and want to do it again the next day because I believe in the mission of it and I believe the heart behind it. And I see the people that it's changing and the people you're interacting with. And there's so much fulfillment and purpose in that, that it doesn't matter that I'm not doing eating disorder counseling. It doesn't matter if I'm not able to write in this season or publish things. It doesn't matter if I'm not able to pursue more school. I'm in a season where I'm serving the Lord because I'm serving my husband. I get to serve my family. And that is fulfilling and purposeful enough.
Yeah, that is so good. That is so good. Yes. And there's a couple things like I feel like I don't know for probably for the majority of people we want to feel seen. It's like when we're doing something, you want that recognition and that validation, not in like a pride arrogant way, but just in a way to say like, "Hey, I see you. Like I see you working hard. I see you." And something that the Lord that I really struggled with is like there's opportunities, different, not necessarily business opportunities, but like you said, serving at church or doing different things where we don't get them. And I'm like, and a part of me really struggled with that of like, well, what am I doing wrong? Like, what am I, what is going on? And I felt like I finally got down to the root issue, and the root issue was I didn't feel seen from the Lord. It's like, do you see me, whenever I'm working hard in this area or, praying for these runners or, like sharing the light of Jesus? Like, do you actually see us doing that? And something that the Lord really had to show me was like, he sees us even if other people don't. And so like, if you're behind the scenes, like you said, you do a lot of admin stuff behind the scenes, and that's important. Like the business would not be accomplished. You need people doing those tasks, and it's like the Lord sees all of that, no matter if other people do or not. And okay, something else that I wanted to touch on. Sorry, there was a lot that you said that was just really, really good. Was you were talking about goals and a season. Oh yeah, I felt like the Lord was like, if you go all in for him, he'll go all in for you. Talking about Bristol, you talked about like your goals became my goals, and that is so true. Like understanding that even if your spouse started the business or had the idea or started it before y'all got together or after, whatever it is, like once you become a unit and they start it, like you're one flesh. So their dreams really do become your dreams. And I would say really check your heart, because if their dreams don't become your dreams, I think that that's a red flag, and like something needs to change on the inside, because we are supposed to be servants and we are supposed to serve our spouse and we are supposed to help them, not just as a wife, but also as a husband. And I think that if you're kind of, having this wall or what's the word, reservation or resentment towards your spouse's goals, really go to the Lord and evaluate your heart and like what's going on. Because like I said, the Lord convicted me at a race. We were at a race and the Lord was like, you are not all in to this like you should be. Like your husband needs your help and you're refusing to help him. And because I was kind of being selfish and wanting to accomplish some of my goals. And the Lord's like, that's again, not the season that, and it's so funny, Kiki, because every season is for a purpose, like you said. And, I feel like going all in for my husband's business, I have learned so much from owning a business, like so much from him and just, the things you experience. Like we experience, because we're Christian and the community is not, we kind of experienced some pushback when Briston went very public about his beliefs. And there was a lot of negative comments and just really bad things said about Texas Outlaw that weren't true. And, you know, with writing a book, there's things that people are going to say that are negative. And really that negative comment, those negative comments, really showed me like, am I ready for what I think I want? And I wasn't. And there's things that I want to write that are very controversial to the culture. And so if I get pushback for that, like, am I actually ready for the season that I want to be in? And I think of the story of Joseph, like he had a dream. But he went through all of these moments in these seasons of servanthood that tested him and really probably built his character so that when he stepped into Pharaoh's second position under Pharaoh, he could actually handle the ridicule or the comments or like the responsibility that he had under him. And just being under Briston and helping him with this company and growing it has really taught me and sharpened my character of like, you have these goals, but like, are you ready for what you think you want? And it's actually showed me, no, right now I'm not ready. So, okay, I wanted to ask, talk about the pros and cons to y'all opened up this gym business, you know, sorry. Talk about the pros and cons to really opening up y'all's business. Now y'all manage two businesses? Yeah, so I'm sure. So he works the gym like early in the mornings and late at night, and then does the other business during the day. Wow, that's a lot.
It is. It's great. It's a grind. But yes, pros and cons. We have really been there for everything. We've really done a lot of the work, if not all the work ourselves, from the renovations to the marketing to, I mean, we've had some people here and there come in and help us along the way, but it's been the majority on our shoulders, um, which I honestly, it really feels like a child. And so, as you mentioned, when people have some negative feedback, it can be a little more hurtful because you respond as if it's a child. It's like we grew this, we raised this, and you hate it. And so
Yeah.
you have to learn to have kind of some thick skin there and just recognize that, hey, our gym is not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. Like we're the right fit for the people that need us in the season that they need us. And so recognizing that, remembering that, filtering your feelings through truth. But pros and cons, you have the pros of having your own schedule and you can make whatever schedule you want. And if you have a doctor's appointment, you can work around that schedule. If you want to go on a family trip, you can work around that schedule. Some cons can be the fear of how am I going to pay bills? I don't have a guaranteed paycheck coming in. I have an employee out this week, and so that means more hours for me. There's a lot more responsibility that falls on your shoulders when you own a business. And so it can seem very glamorous to the outside of, oh my goodness, you're business owners. It's so nice. You must just come in, check out the gym, talk to people, leave. But as you said, they don't see the grind going on of the, hey, we're out of paper towels, we're out of toilet paper, we're out of waters. You got to, you're bringing in all the stocked goods and you're keeping things stocked and you're doing all the paperwork and bills on the side and keeping it really moving and running. And so there can be some of that goes on. Jonathan, right now, he does have two businesses. We're stepping into a season where he will slowly be stepping away from the alarm company and kind of shelving it for a while. The way that works is he has a lot of residual clients that he just monitors them and services them when they need anything. And he does that for free for them. So that's part of running that business. He will not be actively going out and trying to sell for the alarm business unless he needs to. But with stepping away from that a little bit, letting it, because it's kind of now more of a teenager, a young adult, it's able to function on its own. It doesn't need the time of an infant. We're kind of then stepping more into the gym and trying to grow that more because that's ultimately where we want to be full time.
Yeah.
The alarm company has been able to kind of carry the weight of starting a new business, which has been a huge blessing to have that financial backing from a stable business. And so now we're kind of in the season. We were in the season stepping away from promised paychecks a year and a half, 2 years ago when we stepped into Armor Alarms. That was scary, but I remember we both felt a peace about it. And then the Lord really opened doors and has blessed it consistently over and over again. And so now we're in this position again where we feel kind of the fear of stepping away from something that's a little bit more stable and promised, stepping into something that's very unstable in a sense because it's so new, but yet God's been blessing this as well and creating a stability. And so there is kind of some faith and trust of having to go, okay, God, we feel this is where you're leading us and pulling us. So in faith, we're going to let go of this, kind of shelf it for a little bit. It's still there. We can still run it and operate it as we need to, but now putting all of our time and attention into this.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for this season because even though there is some fear of that, there's more excitement of recognizing one, you don't have two jobs for the most part because he really
Yeah.
does. We wake up, our alarms go off at 4:15 ish. We get up, we go to the gym, we run classes from 5 until 7, 8. Our other trainer comes in, she'll help kind of carry the weight of the classes then until 9. I'll personal train some people. We'll come back. We'll have some time at home. We have kids classes starting at 3:30, and then we go until 8. Once again, we have another trainer that she's kind of our lead trainer at night, which is a huge blessing. So we're there as needed, but we kind of step more into the shadows. She takes lead manager kind of role. We'll help out if classes are big, but if not, we've been able to kind of start pulling away a little bit earlier than 8, 8:30 every night, which is super nice. But then from 9 to 5 or 9 to 3:30, Jonathan is doing the alarm business. And so that's been kind of a physical drain a little bit just because you just over time get worn down. And so we're excited for more physical stability of
Yeah.
not having to balance two businesses and getting to pour time just into one. And so, yeah, there's always pros. And there is the glamorous side that people see to business owning.
Yeah.
And then there's also the weight and the pressure side that people don't always see to owning a business. They just see the success of their success. They don't always see the stress and the anxiousness always behind the scenes. So it really depends on your outlook with it.
No, that's good. So I want to ask this question, because we have experienced this, and I want to know if y'all experience this or if it maybe it's just the type of industry we're in. And I'm going to kind of give some clarity, and then I want to hear your answer. So, Briston, so I don't know if you've heard of Nick Bear. You probably have. Oh man, you need to look him
Okay, I
up.
was gonna say it sounds familiar, but I don't know. Oh yes, Nick. So I'll look him up. I'll
Yes,
have to.
Nick Bear, Bare. He started Bear Performance Nutrition. I see Briston as the younger version of him because he started it in his college dorm room. Briston started Texas all in his college room. It's just a lot of parallels. He owns like a multi-million-dollar company that he's been growing. And I would consider him, because you're in the fitness realm. I mean, he is just a great inspiration for content, and just listen to his podcast. They're wonderful. Um, but so he did this podcast series called Building a Brand, and it is a phenomenal series for building a business, building a personal brand, a product, whatever it is. I highly recommend listening to it. And he talked about how building a brand, which is essentially what a business is, you're building a brand, is you can't buy it. You can't purchase it. It must be built. It's something that you can buy product. He does supplements. So, your greens, your pre-workout, all that stuff. He does supplements, and you can buy the product, but to sell it and retain community and retain customers, you have to build a brand, which is essentially, I like thinking about a business as a person. It has a personality, it wears certain clothes, it talks a certain way, it expresses itself. So I like to think of it as a person. That's just an easy way to explain it. And Bristol and I kind of ran into a couple of times. And people don't understand is this is the thing. People, unless you've built a business or built a brand or been the spouse of one who's done it, you don't understand all of what goes on to build a business and to build a brand. And we've run into kind of some obstacles. And I will say, if you are building a business or building a brand, I highly recommend, yes, be vulnerable, yes, be genuine, but you need boundaries with people, because whether you realize it or not, people, no matter their intention, And I know they got to make a living and you got to make a living and they got to pay bills and you got to pay bills. But it is no wonder that the scripture says the love of money is the root of all evil because people will try to take advantage of you. And y'all are young and we're young. And Briston started this when he was 18. And I know your husband started his first company when he was right out of high school. And we have ran into kind of some conflicts of some people who think because they volunteered or, they were in the beginning stages of helping establish the company, they built Texas Outlaw. They built the brand. And, I love Briston's analogy because he says you have it's just like Hobby Lobby. You have David Green who built Hobby Lobby. He established the logo, the brand, the environment, the vibe. Then you have warehouse workers who take the product or managers of the store who check people out and restock the product. But people who restocked the product did not build Hobby Lobby. They worked for Hobby Lobby, and we have come into that conflict of different races. We've partnered with different people for different races, and they think because they host a race that they have built Texas Outlaw. And I will say it is a little frustrating on the wife's side watching your husband work countless hours. And that's the thing, Key. They don't see the 1 work until 1 a.m., the grinding it out. I mean, we traveled to a race and he still had work to do, so he didn't go to bed till like 2 a.m. They don't see that side of it. They don't see him establishing the brand. They just think because I worked this race or volunteered or I've helped build this company. And it's like until you've been in the shoes of building a company, you really don't understand what it takes to build. Does that make sense? I don't want to come off like it is frustrating though, and I do think it is a serious struggle among businesses, especially when you're first starting out. Just, Briston built Texas Outlaw. Nobody else built Texas. He built Texas Outlaw. We had help, and we are thankful for that help, and we will always appreciate that help. But they didn't build Texas Outlaw. They didn't grow the person like the child. They didn't grow the child. They just babysat. Like you get what I'm saying? Like I don't know. So I don't know your thoughts on that or
Yeah,
if y'all have
no.
experienced that.
Mhm.
But we have learned boundaries are very essential because
No,
we
it's
failed at
true.
that.
It's 100% true. Um, Here's what I'd always say, and I feel that because and as the wife, as the hormones, like I'm way more emotional than Jonathan is with things. We were talking about emotional health the other day, and it's funny. I feel like my emotional health tends to be lower than his. His is pretty high, but then his like mental health tends to be a little lower than mine. So we balance each other's out with that because I can get emotional over things, and that emotion it's not just like tears. I can get frustrated, and I can feel that frustration a lot more because, as you said, I can take um, offense or whatever it might be. And so I would say with anything, first off, building a brand, I love that mentality because it's a brand. It's not just like I'll use that for example, it's not just a gym. It's the brand of, hey, you're made for more. That's MFM. Now you come here to work out. That's the product, but the brand is you're made for more, and it doesn't matter your size, it doesn't matter your season, it doesn't matter your goals. Like you matter as the person because God created you for something specifically for you. And so that's the brand. The product is the boxing, the cardio, the weights, all of that we offer, the t-shirts, everything. That's the product. And so I like that analogy. I also would say too, especially as young business owners, I'll kind of tie this into what you're saying, but know your worth. And that's where I struggle too, because for me, understanding bills, families, all the things, you can start feeling the need to lower your worth so that people will want your product. And so it's like, hey, we charge $85 a month for unlimited membership in classes. But then you can start going, you people going, well, I have 3 people or I have 2 people. You're not going to give me a deal or I'm a friend or and whatever it might be. And so then you can start feeling, okay, well, I'll get to you for that. And it's like, no, like know your worth. Know
Yeah.
your product. If people don't want to purchase that, people don't want to be a part of that and partner with that, that's okay. They don't need to. They don't have to. It's the same with the alarm client. We've had to learn that the very, very hard way with working with people that are not great people of going, hey, this is our quality, and we're always going to give quality products and services. And if you can't afford that, that's okay. There's other businesses out there that can give you a lower quality, but this is the quality we're always going to have so that you always get quality service. So we had a lady that refused that quality. She wanted something much cheaper in the very beginning. You're going, okay, we kind of need the business. And so we dropped the quality. We said this isn't the quality we would recommend, but you can afford this quality. It's not going to be great, but you can afford it. She wanted it, and then there was problems after problems of going, you recommended me a terrible system, this and that, all the things. It's like, no, we didn't. We recommended you a great service, but you didn't want it. You wanted something half the price, and you're going to get half the price. It's like it's not our service; it's your product you chose. And so we kind of had to learn, like, hey, people are going to meet your quality and your standard, and they're going to rise to the quality and standard that you offer. And so you don't need to lower your worth to make it in the end. You know what I mean? And so that's with anything, with the alarm, with the gym, with people wanting to take ownership. There has been frustrations over that because even the gym, there can be this mentality of, well, we know you guys, so it's like the gym is ours. And it's like, well, you're
Yes.
there until 1 a.m. every night, drywalling, scraping
Yes.
mirrors,
Yes.
taping off, painting, ceiling paint. Like there's a lot of work that just went in. That was me and my husband and a family friend. And so it's frustrating sometimes, but then I have to remind myself of going, okay, I understand the mindset. They feel so connected to us that they want to take some ownership of it. And at the end of the day, I can choose. I'm not naturally this way. I can choose to be more humble of going, hey, at the end of the day, their opinions, their thoughts on anything don't really matter. And so if they think they have something to do with this, that's fine. But the people that know it was Jonathan that put in the work. It was me, all the things. And so it's frustrating because it really is like, no, you haven't done any of the work. You've been part of it here and there. You've partnered here and there, but you haven't been in the grind. But that's part of a business too. And we've had to learn that where it's like, hey, people don't understand the grind. People don't always see the hours and the work put in. And that's okay because as long as they see the awesome product that's produced, it doesn't matter how it got there.
Yeah.
As long as they see it, they recognize it, and they're changed by it. That's the ultimate goal. And it's hard because, like I said, I feel that a lot more. I tend to be a lot more defensive over that. But really, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we do want you to be part of that made for more of the brand. Like, if that is, you feel a connection to the brand that you're made for more and you want to feel a part of that as a whole, even if it's through false thinking that you somehow had a part of building it, we still want you there to be a part of that message because it really is a mission. It's like the mission and the mindset that this is who you are and you're not what this says, you're not what that says. It's like knowing your worth, you can be part of it, you can welcome them in. And then honestly, Jonathan's always like, just remember opinions. And really the only opinion you should really care about is the Lord's. And then really close friends, like he's like, that's okay to care about close friends' opinions, but other people that want to come in and kind of take credit in a sense. And I think there's just that justification. Like if you have like a spiritual gift of justice where it's like, that's not right though, it can
Oh
be
yeah, that's
frustrating.
me. That's me.
It can be
That's
frustrating. It's very, I understand what you're saying. And so just recognizing like young business owners always know your worth. Never lower your standard or quality to meet someone where they're at. Right? Like raise them up to meet your quality. Because
Yes,
if
that's
you're
good.
striving to produce awesome quality, let people meet you where you're at, help them get to where you're at. Don't lower your quality and standards just to get someone to be a part of it. At the end of the day, if they don't want to be a part of the quality that you're producing, then you don't want that character involved with your brand because it really does affect your brand. And
Yeah.
it's not that you're picking and choosing who you want. You're just going, hey, the people that want to be here will be here. And the people that want us to lower our standards to meet them where they're at, we're not the place for them. And that's okay. I think sometimes we feel the pressure. We have to fill everyone's needs. And there were even needs that Jesus didn't fulfill. He was on the earth for 33 years and there were people he didn't heal. There were places he didn't go. There were people he didn't see. And so I think it's important to recognize that we're not here to fill everyone's needs, but the ones that rise to our standard and quality will meet their needs and they'll be blessed. And so that's that mentality and mindset you have to have.
That is good. So last question and then we can get off. Um, employees. We are just now stepping into hiring employees. Last year was the first year where we hired a race director, and we have some part-time people that we have on our team. And man, we have just really been exposed and good and bad failures and successes of learning that just because someone comes to you, they know you own a business, they know you're a succeeding business, you're a growing business. Just because they say, "Hey, I want a job," does not mean that you just give them a job. That was an epic fail. We failed at that, okay? Because personality and values and goals matter so much. It's just like dating. Like, you don't want to be with someone who has opposite values as you, or, that has a different, I don't want to say vibe, but just they strive for different things. Like, and this is something that I'm learning too, Kiki, that you kind of mentioned. You want someone, I'm learning this as a wife, and 50% business owner, because now in Bristol's will, God forbid something happened to him, the business goes on me. And all the employees and all the running community said, "Oh my gosh." No, I'm just kidding. Um, we will
You're
think
like, I
that
don't want to take it.
yeah. No, but I'm learning this, that we talk about personality, but I'm learning from hiring employees that you want people who are passionate about the mission that your company has. They're passionate about fitness, for us, they're passionate about running, they're passionate about that community, or maybe they just want to grow in that. They don't have to like be very knowledgeable in it, because like I wasn't, even though I ran, I wasn't knowledgeable in ultra running or trail running, but I had at least a desire to grow and be a student in it. And that's important. But I also think that, like you said, you're promoting the business, not yourself. And there are positions in any company where, just like a sales position, where you're seen, like our race directors positions, people will not ever meet Briston. They will meet the race director. And I think, in any business, like, it's really important to say, okay, like, why am I doing this as an employee and as a business owner? Why am I doing this? I want people who are on the same page as me, who are striving after the same thing, have the same values, the same personalities. And something that we're learning is, I don't want an arrogant person who's going to, not necessarily like take all the credit, but at the end of the day, like, we're a team. Like, we are a team, and the team matters. And just always going back to the team, and humbly, like, humbling yourself, and if you did something great, acknowledging that. But something that, like, you talk about justice, and I'm kind of going on a little tangent, but something that I really have always been black and white about is, if you do something, you should get recognition for it. But if you are the face of something that you did not do, like, it drives me crazy when you take ownership of that. I'm like, no, you do all that work. Like, what do you mean you're taking ownership of that? And maybe I need to humble myself and offer some more grace. I probably need to do that. But I just think, like, when you're hiring employees, it's so important to think about personality. And just because someone says, "Hey, I want a job," does not mean that you hire them. So I don't know if you've had any if you have any tips and advice to go along with hiring or firing,
Oh,
or
yeah,
or
absolutely.
or all of the above. And training, guys,
Yeah.
something we're learning is training is so important. Like, not just training them about the job that they're doing, but like why they're doing that job. Like, giving them the vision behind Texas Outlaw, the vision behind your company, what your values are. It's so funny. And you want teachable people. You want people who are open to correction. Because something that we're learning is that when you have an employee who, an employee is going to make a lot of mistakes when they first get hired, because they literally were first hired. And so when you have someone who, you want someone who's teachable, who's a student, who says, like, I'm willing to be wrong, and I'm willing to apologize, and I'm willing to grow, and not have this, like, like this mentality of, does that make sense? Like you want people on your team who, because it's just gonna make the relationship, the co-working relationship a lot better. And I think as a Christian, like denying yourself, like it's a part of, the Christian life. And so what were you gonna say?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm in the same boat. I've learned a lot about employees lately, and I've learned things to do again. I've learned things to never do again. And I think the biggest quality in finding someone that will be the best leader for you in a business is finding someone who can walk in humility and serve others well because it reflects Jesus. Jesus came and walked in humility and he served. He led by serving. And so it's not about having a strong leader, it's about having someone who is humble and who can serve well that will become a strong leader. And when you hire someone with a strong leadership quality only who haven't mastered humility and servanthood, then you will come into a lot of conflict because there will be opposing opinions. There can be conflict in how something should be done. There can be some pride in not wanting to be told they're wrong. And like I said, this is speaking from experience. This is speaking from my experience and as a boss experience as well. So as a past worker and as a boss now. And I think one important aspect for the boss to keep in mind hiring people, be their boss first. Always be their boss first. This is something
Yeah.
I have learned the hard way. Do not come in as their friend who is also their boss. That's going to create a lot of problems and blurred lines on expectations because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we're just buddies. And it's like, no, I'm your boss and you're my employee first. So anything I say to you, anything I challenge you on is to grow you, not a friend coming at you telling you, I know more than you, so do this right. And when there's this we're buddies or friends mindset, that's how that can come across. And so that's what I've had to learn of going, hey, I'm your boss first. So create that relationship with me as boss employee, not because I'm putting myself over you, but because this will help deflate a lot of potential problems in the future if I come to you and go, hey, XYZ, you can take that remembering, hey, well, Kiki's my boss. And so she's telling me this as a boss to an employee. And then as we create a friendship and relationship within that work relationship, then you can trust that, hey, Kiki's a fair boss. She's kind to me. Jonathan's kind to me. They want the best for me. That's why they're challenging me in these areas of my life. We're not coming to you because we have it all figured out as a 27, 29-year-old. We don't. But we've had a lot of experience in the workplace, and we want ultimately you to grow and succeed as a person, whether it's at MFM Training Center or if it's somewhere else in life. It's like, hey, these are the expectations future bosses are going to have for you. And so take that training now from someone who cares about you and sees you as a person, but ultimately, we're your boss. You're our employee. We value you as an employee. We never want to devalue you. In fact, we want to increase your value and have you rise to meet that standard versus treating you as you're a new employee who doesn't know anything. And so here's your low standard to meet. We want you to always feel here's this high expectation and we want you to rise to meet it. And we don't expect you to be here when we hire you. We understand that. But we want you to be here when you leave us.
Right.
Whether it's 6 months, 3 months, a year down the road, we want you to be at this high quality of an employee that anyone will want to hire you because you learn how to be an employee with someone who took the time to care about you. And so that's that rub sometimes. And as you said, just because someone comes to you and wants a job and loves you does not mean you are the business for them. And I'll say that again. You are not required to give anyone a job because they need one and they want one. We have been there too. And our job is very specific, as I know Texas Outlaw is as well, because not everyone is wired to do that job. Like for us, just because you love working out doesn't mean you can lead group classes. Group classes require an outgoingness, a level of hypeness that you have to have. You have to make yourself extroverted. So even though I'm naturally more introverted, the older I get, I have to, for those hours I'm leading classes, hey, I'm an extrovert right now. I'm talking to people. I'm engaging people. I'm not just staring people down, like watching what they're doing. I'm giving them feedback constantly so they don't think I'm just RBFing them a little bit. It's like, hey, no, there's constant feedback of going, hey, I'm coaching you. I'm pouring into you. I'm talking constantly. There's a lot of onness you have to have. We've had some people that make great personal trainers. One-on-one is their thing, but they can't do the group classes. It stresses them out.
Yeah.
And so just understanding that, like, hey, even though we have an environment you want to be in, I'm glad there's something attractive and appealing about MFM where you want to work here. But that doesn't mean we're the right place for you. And I think if you phrase it that way, of going, you're not the right person for us, that's hurtful for anyone to hear. But if you phrase it as going, hey, we're not the right fit for you. We want you to thrive and to grow. And I don't think we're equipped to do that for you here. And that's a little bit nicer way to turn down someone who wants a job that you just know right off the bat, like, this is not for you. Now, we always give an opportunity of going, hey, join a class, jump in. We'll let you kind of jump in and lead something if you want to. Like, we'll let you lead the cardio station, we'll let you lead the bags with us kind of assisting, and then we can talk about it afterwards. But there's a high level of expectation, especially Jonathan. Jonathan is very particular. He's very specific. He's not a micromanager, but he has a very particular standard to meet if you're an employee, because as you said, training is so important. If you train them well, now we're at the place where, hey, we can clock out and go home at 6 o'clock every night because we trust that we've trained our trainers well, that even if we get new people popping in, we don't have to be the face. They're going to get the same workout with our trainers that we have as they would if Jonathan and I were on the clock, because we've taken the time and we've taken the time to correct and coach them, that we're not stressed if we hear, hey, we had two new people at the 7 o'clock tonight. It's like, perfect. We know they got the same experience as they would at the 6 a.m. that Jonathan and I lead every morning. And so there is that high level of, hey, invest in your employees, raise the quality that you expect from them, be patient through that, but then also recognize when you're not the right fit for them. And sometimes by keeping someone in a place that you know they're not the right fit for you, you're not the right fit for them, but you feel bad, you don't want to let them go, they need a job, so you're just going to grind it out. You're potentially keeping them from where God does have them, in an area where they can thrive, but because you feel the responsibility of their finances on your shoulders, you keep them and keep them in a situation where they may not need to be long term.
That's good. That's good. So, concluding, one more question. How many chances do y'all give for, let's say, you're having conflict, because conflict's going to happen in a business, in a growing business with employees. So, what is y'all's policy or rule of thumb whenever it comes to firing? I mean, like, how many mistakes? What's the situation like? What basically, where's the line drawn when you're like, all right, we need to part our ways. This is not a good fit, things like that.
Thankfully, we haven't had an opportunity where we have had to fire for a negative reason. We most likely do need to finalize what that step is, of like, hey, step one, you have a conversation. Step two, that conversation, they received it, they're still not doing it. There is a time frame you give them to get it together. And then step three, hey, you're done. Like, wish the best for you, but we've told you, we've talked about it, we've given you an expectation of work on it from this time frame, and then ultimately cutting ties, letting someone go. We have had situations where people have chosen to leave, and honestly, I'll be very honest, and this can sound like poor business management, but it came down to both times me and Jonathan praying. We're just like, God, we do not want to have to let this person go, but we know we're not the right place for them. Like, we're not a right fit for them, but we're willing to let them try. But you could just tell they're not getting it. They're not getting it. And so we'll pray about it. We're honestly, it's like, God, this conversation is going to have to happen by this date, but it'd be easier for them if they came to us wanting to leave. And so we've had a couple people where they're like, hey, this is just not for me. I can't stand group classes. I can't do it. It stresses me out, makes me, whatever it might be. Um, Conflict with employees, we've definitely had where we always address it right then. Now, if it's in the class and something happens, I'm not going to call it out then, but it's going to be right after that class. Hey, I lead the warm up, Jonathan pulls him aside. Jonathan leads the warm up, I pull him aside. If it's a girl, I'll talk to him. If it's a guy, Jonathan will talk to them and kind of reprimand a little bit, but we'll always nip it in the bud, because that's our promise to them, of going, hey, we're not talking about you behind your back. We're not talking to others about how you're not doing something right. If there's a problem, we're going to address it and move on. And you have to recognize too that once we address it, we've moved on. We're not still harboring frustration towards you because you did this or you said that or you acted this way. We've addressed it and we've moved on. And so, yes, with addressing conflict right away, with firing someone, we've thankfully just had people ask to not work with us anymore. And that has been a blessing, honestly, because we're like, "Oh, we don't want to hurt them." But there's that recognition of going, they're not going to love it here. Like, they're just not going to make it here. But then there's also that three-step process of, once again, hey, there's always a conversation. We're not going to just fire you of going, hey, you're done. And then there's always that time frame of going like, you have this time frame to work on what we've talked about. And then if it's not, it's like, hey, we've talked about it. We've given you our expectations and you're still not doing it. And so we're not the right place for you. I would suggest you find someplace else. So thankfully, we haven't had to have one of those hard firing sessions, but we have had to challenge some people on some things, to let some people go, to be okay with when people have let go. Always hold employees with an open hand is what I've learned. And also learning too, I think it's important to know, like, everyone is replaceable, even Jonathan and I. Like, even though we built the brand,
Yeah.
it doesn't function solely because of us. And that comes back to training your employees well, of going like, hey, if everyone carries and wears the brand well, they don't need me and Jonathan there to run a great class. Did we build it? Yes. Is Made for More our mission and our heart? Absolutely. But our employees who we have employed, they wear it well. They reflect the brand well. Find employees who are going to reflect your brand the way you would want it reflected. And then for those who don't, run out the plates for them, and that's okay. And you don't have to feel bad about that.
That's so good. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.